Hello, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's joining us now. As we wait for more people to jump in, please feel free to head over to our chat and just let us know where you're tuning in from.
You need someone to break the ice in the chat.
I
Sean.
do.
Come on, guys. It's not scary. Where are you based? They're like, no.
Say hi. Yassine.
Yay.
There we go. They're coming in now.
See, there you go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Yassine. Thank you, Jai. Thank you, Alex. Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome, everyone, to our third Future-Proof webinar brought to you by Edge of Search and, of course, Firewire. My name is Shauna V. I'm the head of community and field marketing at Firewire Digital, and I'm also the co-founder of Edge of Search and also the head organizer. So, if you have questions, hit me up. It is a unique search marketing conference that we host in Newcastle, New South Wales. I hope you guys will go check it out. Maybe join us. Our guest speaker today is Sally Mills. You probably know her from some of the incredible companies she has worked with, like InfoChoice and CanStar. But I am very, very excited to introduce her today as the founder and director of Sally Mills Consulting. So, yay! She did it. She's out on her own.
I'm free.
You're free. You're free. W's a free elf. Some of you may also remember her as our keynote speaker from our 2024 Edge of Search event, where she did a fantastic job of kicking off this really amazing event that we do. You may also know her from her community work. She organizes the Brisbane SEO Collective, and she's also the brains behind Brisbane SEO Beers. So, this woman, she does a lot. She does a lot for all of us, and we should be incredibly grateful. Yes, thank you, Valerie. Go, Sally.
Thanks, Val. I mean, Valerie needs a call out too, because she organises the Gold Coast beers and you organise the Newcastle one. So,
and I did the new SEO biz, but you're the OG. We just stole it from you. I will let Sally introduce herself in a little bit more detail in a sec, but just a few FYI before we begin. Yes, thank you, Brie. We are so grateful to Sally. Please feel free to use the chat here. You can share your thoughts with us, commentary, feelings, whatever you've got to share. Please pop it in the chat. We love reading it as the presentation happens. Q&A section, you can pop your questions into there. We will try and get through as many of those at the end. If I see any that I think are really poignant to address in the moment, I will hand them over to Sal. Also, if you need to jump out for any reason, please don't worry. We are recording this and you will get that recording. It will also be available to watch on the Edge of Search YouTube. So you can always check it out there as well. And if you do, you will also find the latest episode of the Edge of Search podcast, which also features Sally. I have all of the Sally content for you. And I will also be adding all of today's relevant links into the chat so you guys can see those there. All right, that's enough from me. Sally, floor is all yours.
Shall I kick it off, Val? Kick it off.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the amazing introduction, because that saves me doing it. And I think you do a better job than I do. But yes, I'm officially consulting, which is exciting. My big thing I really want to tackle with all my speaking is just technical stuff and the real fundamentals, because today I'm not going to be talking about core web vitals and I'm not going to be talking about schema, because basically every time I hear people talk about technical SEO, what I hear is people going, oh, what about core web vitals? What about schema? What are we doing with schema? And when we really take a step back and look at technical SEO, it's more about getting the bots through your website and getting them to see what you want, right? So what we're going to focus on today is just some core principles that hopefully give you an idea of sort of going from the ground up when you're auditing websites to make sure that you're making Google's life easy. So you want to be letting those bots in, you want to be pointing them the right way, you want to be helping them to read, and then finally, obviously, you want to be prioritizing, which I know can be really difficult, especially when you've got a whole heap of different things to sort of work out and what comes first and what's most important. Now, Sean's just put a poll in there for how experienced are you with technical SEO, which will help me because maybe you're all experts and I don't need to really get into the nitty-gritty of how things work. Or maybe you're just here to learn, you don't really know much. So if you do that poll, it'll make my life a lot easier too. But kicking off with actually letting the bots in. And this is going to feel basic for a lot of you. And the reason is because it's super important. I feel like we all forget to have a look at things. So let's start with this one, because what I see again and again is people not even checking that the website's core underlying redirects actually load right. So whenever Google hits a URL, it's going to take that version of that URL as the exact different one, the exact one. So each time you change something in that, you might go to the same URL, but it won't be. So let's start at the top here. So we look at things at domain level, right? When you've got one that doesn't have a www, like this one here, no www, or this one here with the www. Now, I don't care which version you choose, but I want you all to actually make sure that you've chosen one and that when you go into your browser and actually type that in, that they both redirect to the specific one. So whether you've chosen, let's go and say we've chosen the one without the www, this one here with the www should redirect through. If it's not doing that, what you're doing is you've got two separate URLs out there, two separate domains, and probably two separate versions of every single URL on your website. And you're not helping Google sort of understand the differences and work out which one's which, right? Now, I see a lot of websites not even doing that. So you're going to start there. The next thing is SSLs and the little S in your HTTPS. Now, a lot of people still aren't doing this redirect as well. So we're going to make sure that every version of your URL is actually going to land on that HTTPS version. For this one here, you can see that I've done both examples here because you need to make sure that the non-www version, it's really hard to say, redirects here, and also the www version redirects here, both without the S, adding the S. A little quirk with this one, you also technically want to make sure that it's doing that redirect of one hop. It's not going from, let's say, this version to this version to this version, right? Making sure that it actually goes straight to the endpoint. Otherwise, you're just adding other layers. And every time Googlebot or a user hits that URL, it's going to be just taking that little bit longer, slowing down your site speed, slowing down your crawl, and then Google's having to process multiple different versions of URLs. Handling trailing slashes. Now, another one that people sort of forget to check when you're just starting at that base level of an actual URL and domain is check that you're actually choosing one version. So you want to be either choosing one with or without. It's similar to the host stuff. I don't care which version you go with, but you need that consistency across the website. So every single URL you've got out there needs to have with or without a slash, and it should redirect in 301 to the correct one. Capitals. Here's one that I also see people sort of forget. So Google's going to treat these completely different URLs again, right? So the standard way is to redirect them to lowercase, of course. I know there might be some exceptions. Sometimes media paths and stuff might have a capital in there, so there might be sort of outliers with it, but generally we want everything redirecting to lowercase. So you've got that consistency everywhere and you're not having two versions of the URL out there. So once you've done all that, the final thing is you're also going to check that that URL and that domain is responding with a server response code. Now these ones, I'm not going to go into server response codes today because hopefully, I haven't got the results of the poll yet, but hopefully you guys are somewhat familiar with them. You can Google them. I feel like I could actually go and do a deep dive for like half an hour on all the various different versions of server response codes. But go and crawl your website, whether it's Screaming Frog, Sitebulb, whichever tool, or even just right click and have a look at the network tab in Chrome DevTools and see that the server response code's right. You're looking for a 200 on those and you're looking to avoid too many different response codes there. Down the bottom here, I've just got a bit of an example of those redirects throughout. So just making sure that you've got this right before you then jump down and have a look at everything else. Because what we're trying to do today is just build slowly and make sure that everything's functioning nicely. Next one, robots.txt. Now, I'm hoping most of you guys have used these before. what was interesting, so I'm a big fan of this archive called HTTP Archive. And what they've basically done is a not-for-profit, and they've gone and crawled like a huge amount of the web. And from there, they've pulled out different sort of data points to analyze the web. So there's some really cool statistics in there. Like, did you guys know that 13% of sort of the massive database they've crawled is actually responding with a 404 for their robots.txt file? So that's like a lot of URLs, a lot of domains out there that don't even have a robots.txt. So for those beginners out there or people that just haven't checked their robots.txt in a while, just go and open it and see that it is there. See that you're not blocking anything you shouldn't be doing. Let's just see what the poll says. Good. Okay, you guys know what a user agent is, which is good. That's a good start. I'm getting the vibe most of you guys are pretty familiar with this, which is good. I'm quite interested to see how the changes in AI bots being blocked in robots.txt change over the next year. So this started from 2025. And what's interesting is in 2025, a lot of people were blocking GPT quite a bit, Claude quite a bit. Google Extended is actually Google's like LLM training user agent. So a lot of these places have started blocking out these bots. As to how that'll change for 2026 data will be very interesting. But please go and actually check things and make sure that this is functioning right. Meta robots tags. Now we are going back to basics. So I want to talk about these too, because obviously if you're blocking Google from indexing the page and you're disallowing completely, you're blocking it completely from accessing it, that's going to be a problem and you're not going to have your content in. One thing I want to talk about is that disallowing and no index does not mean the same thing. An issue that I see quite regularly is that people don't want a page indexed. So what they've done is they've got to put a no index on the page in the meta romance, and then they've gone and actually also disallowed it as well. And the big issue you're going to have there is that Google won't even be able to then access the page because it's blocked from the robots.txt to then no index it. So a big rule of thumb is if you want something not appearing in search results is to no index first, wait till it's been removed, and then go and add that to your robots.txt to actually block it. I should have done a poll for this one, but I wonder how many of you actually know about an X-robots tag instead. So you do have the opportunity to actually no index through a HTTP header, which is done basically at the server level instead. So whether it's Apache or something, so you can talk to your infrastructure team, your web developer, and they can help you actually apply an X-robots tag instead up there rather than doing it through the head in the HTML like this. The good thing about this is it's really helpful if you've got, say, PDFs. I think the classic example I used to use this for would be if we'd release basically a latest survey statistics PDF, and we didn't want that indexed in Google because we wanted to keep that sort of research hidden, but we did just want to host it on our server. We'd actually use an X-robots tag instead, because that would allow us to manage it at the server level. And because if you know that like a PDF, for example, or an image, you can't go and edit the meta robots. You can't go and add that to the head. So this is another option to think about when you do want to crawl, you want to control where Googlebot and different bots are getting to. So always remember that you have got an X-robots tag there as well. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is actually try and point the bots in the right direction. And we're going to do a bit of boring old maintenance because honestly, most of this presentation is just about being a webmaster and being a maintenance person. A lot of you should have sitemaps working and functioning, but one issue I see a lot is that the sitemap isn't actually sort of well looked after and healthy. So what we've got to begin with is I want you to check that every single URL within your sitemap's actually a 200 status code. I often see sitemaps that have a 301 in there, even 404s in there, basically making sure you've got that canonical version in there. You don't want to be wasting Google's time by feeding in various URLs that you don't want indexed anymore. It's your opportunity to basically skip that queue and be like, Google, these are the pages I want you to focus on. So go and check that it's got the right URLs in there. Screaming Frog's really good at doing this just by going and doing a crawl, adding in sitemap, and then you can just go crawl analysis, and there'll be an option down there for basically, I think it's called like non-indexable URLs in the sitemap, and go and just be a maintenance person, give it a clean up, because you don't want to be constantly wasting Google's time by crawling URLs that have errors, or maybe you just don't want them in there at all. The final one that I recommend that Sean and I were just talking about was actually checking in your search console, submitting the sitemap, and then seeing what sitemaps are in there, because often you're not the first SEO to touch these ones. So actually go to have a dig in there, and you might find that there's a bunch of old sitemaps that shouldn't be in there anymore, in which case go and actually remove them, go and clean them up, because if they're still in there, Google's still hitting them and then still actually wasting time crawling them as well. Internal links. Now, this, honestly, a lot of this content is just straight out of Google's guideline for links, but I'm going to go through it again because it's something I see again and again on some pretty like big major websites. So we should all know that you should be using a href tag to direct things in an anchor tag. That is probably how Google and a lot of different bots are navigating the web. If you're using various forms of JavaScript like onClick that will basically send you to the page a different way, or the other ones, it's called a router link, which comes out of like React and JavaScript frameworks, where rather than actually using a href, it's going to use basically a different form of sort of routing links through using JavaScript. And I just feel like with the massive influx of everyone vibe coding websites and using various JavaScript frameworks, we're going to start to see this more and more and more, which means us as SEOs are going to have to start looking out for these JavaScript links a lot more, because Google says they can sometimes crawl them, but it's really, really not their preferred way. And our goal from a technical SEO perspective is to just make Google's job like really, really easy. That's your number one thing. Now, this one here drives me insane because I see it everywhere still. I'm still seeing people go and link with just a click here or a read more, which doesn't give the bot any information about what the actual page is. It takes 2 seconds to actually just go and link interesting information on the destination and actually make that anchor text useful, rather than just doing a click here. It also makes the sentence structure a lot nicer too. I know often this could be because you've got like a component that lists out to an article or something, and that's just the way the component's been designed. But there's ways to work around that, whether you actually place the link as a surrounding, like surround the whole entire component, or just think outside the box as to how you can link like the heading tag instead. So lots of different options there. What's your most hated anchor text is the poll on there at the moment. I'm going to say mine is click for. Okay, so the next bit's my favorite bit that I wanted to dig into is a bit of server-side rendering and stuff, because I know this topic still confuses quite a few SEOs, and I still see mistakes happen all the time. And as I said before, with more like websites being vibe coded and frameworks, JavaScript frameworks being used, I reckon we're just going to see more and more and more of this. So before we dig into what sort of client-side rendering and server-side rendering means, let's just take a step back and have a look at sort of LLMs and the web as a whole. So most LLMs, especially when they're doing training data stuff, aren't actually rendering the page, and they're not actually seeing the JavaScript on the page. So they're only going to see that HTML version. If you're querying, I did actually query Copilot this week, and it will render the content on the page. But if you've got a really, really big page, lots of JavaScript, like we're seeing here, we're basically seeing the median JavaScript payload is increasing still. So it's still increasing up to 646. We're still seeing the homepage weight, like the actual size of the page, continue to grow, which means that more and more JavaScript's happening, which means that we're having bots have to process much longer pages. So sites that are overloaded with JavaScript and client-side rendering could end up being underrepresented in large-scale training sets, since the crawlers, AI models employed do not render. So you guys are probably, if you don't know, you're probably like, I don't know what rendering is or any of that. So let's dig into a bit of that. Now, hopefully you guys have seen this lovely diagram that's straight out of Google's Docs. I'm going to break it down for you guys, and then I'm going to give you some examples so you can actually get your head around client-side and server-side rendering. So server-side rendering is basically you're going to check your source code, and you're going to see what's in the actual source code. Client-side rendering is when you're coming back in the browser and the JavaScript's actually loading it later. So let's have a look at the process that Google goes through when it crawls a page. So the first thing is a URL is going to hit the crawl queue here. It's going to come through to the crawler. The crawler is going to grab it. The crawler is actually going to do a quick check of your robots.txt to see if it's even allowed at that page. It's also then going to check sort of your no index tag as well, which means if your no index tag is being loaded later with JavaScript, you're going to have a problem right there. And it's going to hit this processing. So that's just the initial HTML version of your page, not anything that's loaded through JavaScript. From there, that actual content is going to get indexed through, but everything else is going to hit the rendering queue. Now, when it hits sort of the JavaScript rendering queue, it could be here for who knows how long. It could depend how big your website is, how big other people's websites are. It's a real question mark as to how long it's going to take, but eventually the page will get rendered. And once the page is rendered, they'll be able to see what sort of HTML stuff there. So if you've got a no index tag that's only showing up through JavaScript, they're not going to see it till here, which means that they may have already actually got it indexed by it. The other thing they're doing in both these points here is they're also looking for URLs. So they're going to look for URLs here and they're going to send URLs back for the crawl queue. And they're going to see URLs here and send them back through the crawl again, because that's what they're looking for, is more pages to add to their database and steal our content, really. So that's probably a lot, but I thought I would visually show you guys. So what I've done on my website is I've actually launched some real examples for you guys to have a look at, so that you can actually go and see how client side actually works as an example. So what we see on the left here is this is sort of the page as it loads, and you've got this content here. If we turn JavaScript off, it disappears. I thought I might actually just show you guys that. So this page here, that's the same one of my screenshots. And I realized the other day that a lot of people don't even know how to turn off JavaScript in DevTools. So what we're going to do is going to right click. We'll go inspect. We'll come up to the little cog up here, go settings. I'm going to scroll down. Down. And here you'll see it says disable JavaScript. So we're going to tick that one. And when we refresh, all the content's gone, right? Completely gone. So this is what, in a way, Google's going to see on first load. It's only going to see the stuff that actually appears in the source code. So we just untick that again. You'll see everything reloading there, right? Sometimes I often see pages that have some of the content loaded through client side, sometimes the whole page. So here's another example just with sort of some of it. So you can see here's the whole page here. And these pages do actually explain how to do it on the page. Here, let's turn it off again. So I actually got Claude the other day to build me a Chrome extension. So it's super easy just to get Claude to do that as well. But there you go, all content just gone. And now you're thinking, if this is really important content that you want Google to index actively, it's now having to really dig to find that. It's having to actually hit this render queue to get to it, which is just going to really, really slow things down. If you were, say, a news company trying to launch basically breaking news, you wouldn't want your content to basically get stuck in the rendering queue, especially when we're having a look at LLMs hitting things too. You want it to be really quick to load, and you want it on that server side. Let's go. So I've shown you that one as well. And that's just a quick guide, which I just showed you guys. So hopefully you can all disable JavaScript now, and you're going to go and just turn some things off and see what happens there. The last one I want to talk about in that area is content that's actually hidden behind sort of an interaction of the user. So this one on the left here is this content here is actually all in the source code. And in the source code, I'm going to just show you guys how to access the source code in case you haven't done that. So right click, view page source, and you'll be able to find it in here. So in there, basically, you can see this content is present in raw HTML code, which is just this bit here, right? And you're going to pretend that's in there too. So that's all good. Google can access that one. But this one on the right here, when a user actually clicks on this accordion here, that's when this content here is then loaded in. So what we can see here is basically it's got this bit of content here, this bit of content, but then this is here, it's not there. And this might trick you up because if you come here and we clicked this one open, right? So it's the same one as before. And we went into sort of your inspect element. You do see the content there, right? Like that's awesome, cool. It's there. That's really good to see. You just assume that it's like working and Google can read it. But then if you were to jump into the actual source code of the page, it just wouldn't be there at all. Like you couldn't find it whatsoever. So I really encourage you to actually go and check your source code. An easier way to do this on Mass is actually rendering with Screaming Frog and rendering with JavaScript. It does take quite a while. Maybe choose a subsection of the site if you're working with a really big website, but then you can compare basically the pages that are rendering stuff through JavaScript and not. And you'll suddenly go, oh my God, Google's not even easily accessing the content that I've worked so hard to, like briefing all this content in. Okay. The next thing is prioritization, which I know is going to be the hardest thing because obviously I've only really scraped the surface on some of those core things with technical SEO. But what I sort of like to do is give everything a score on sort of where they sit. Now, every business is going to have a business priority. There's always going to be politics stuff. There's going to be stuff that everyone really cares about fixing. Like I know probably every business for a while there had a big push towards core web vitals. And maybe your website wasn't that slow, but because it's a business priority, it's going to have a bit of a high weight. Or there might be just something that only you care about. And then maybe it's not such an important thing, right? And it's actually only you care about it, but it's actually lower across the scales there too. So give it a score to 1 to 10. Then you're going to look at sort of how sort of across the website this is, whether it's a key page, whether it's a whole template, that's really important, whether it's just a singular page, and give that a score 1 to 10. Then you're going to have a look a bit through crawl, discoverability, index, render, or rank. So I will highlight that we're talking about technical issues on this one because I'm still of the opinion that content is king, and assuming that your content can be read like what we've just gone through there and it's rendering properly and it hasn't got no index tag on it, it's not really going to matter as much once we get further out, right? So the biggest thing is making sure that the most important thing is that Google can actually crawl to it and get it, then discover it and then actually index it. And then from there, rendering and ranking is a whole nother, is as important. Right now, we're trying to work out getting bots to the actual page. Whether it's a quick fix or a whole quarters of work. So really having a look at sort of the complexity of the piece of work, because that's really going to help you choose, is this the thing we should be focusing on now? And I know when it comes to technical SEO stuff and anything web development related, it can take a really long time to get things into backlogs of stuff. And then the last thing I always like to have a look at is whether you can actually prove that it's been fixed and it's worked and it's measurable and it's helped. A lot of the times, like if you're removing a no index tag, that's pretty measurable. It's now indexed in Google. That's a massive win. You can prove that's worked. If you've gone and just put some how-to schema on the page, it's sort of harder to prove whether that's actually been like measurable and it's actually helped your business as a whole. So adding sort of that score against everything. So this is a bit of an overwhelming slide with a lot of different examples, but you're going to sort and prioritize your tasks and just give them a scale of 1 to 10 and add them up. So for example, that top one's just like a key page has a no index tag. Usually it's a pretty quick win, right? So 10, get it out the door. It's a key page. 9 is pretty important. You can definitely validate that it's worked. You can measure it's worked because it will be indexed. And it's going to have with a high score of about 46, right? And you're going to continue working down through the various ones. So like a core web vitals is at 70 out of 100, right? 70 is a pretty good score. Like, yes, there's definitely areas to improve that. But is it going to really push that needle further than where some of the other ones are? Maybe not. So you're going to go and fill out your different stats, And from there, it should hopefully get your brain working the right way to work out what is actually a priority and what's not. This will always be super subjective to all of you. You're all going to rate things differently. You might not need this anymore, but if it helps you sort of deconstruct the issue, because I know when I started SEO, I went, how am I meant to choose what's the most important thing to do? So just taking that step back and just doing some scores and sort of trying to working out what's actually important and how quickly can I get it out, and will it actually show like clear improvement, and go from there. So there you go. Hopefully you guys can go check one thing today and actually check those base technical SEO things. And thanks, guys. Ask me whatever questions you want.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I love that. One of the, while we wait for people to maybe want to share some stuff, and I do have another poll live at the moment for everybody just about how often you audit. So please share with us. I just wanted to say one of the reasons that I was really excited to get Sally in to do this presentation is I think we're in this moment of having a technical renaissance. This stuff is so much more important because of how business focused business focus is really on AI at the moment, and there is so much technical debt out there, and that is only going to get bigger with vibe coded websites. So devs, techs out there, don't worry, your jobs are like so safe.
They're so safe.
So safe. So I just feel like this is really timely to everything that's going on, and it's such a core underpinning of digital. And the gap to me, and maybe you can speak a little bit more on this, Sal, the technical gap for marketers broadly who are being expected to go in and they're being expected to work in the digital ecosystem and get stuff visible in the digital ecosystem. This technical gap that they have, I think, is a real detriment.
And I think like what I keep seeing, as I said at the beginning, right, is everyone's so focused. You say technical SEO and they just think schema and they just think core web vitals. And it's sort of like, have you just done sort of more of a site health? Like I sort of feel like technical SEO is just that site health and making sure your website's actually accessible. And like I always keep thinking about everyone talking about like, is schema going to rank you higher in LLMs? Is it going to increase your visibility in LLMs? And I'm like, why are we so obsessed with schema right now and LLMs? Like, surely when you're looking at the grand scheme of things to optimize, unless your scheme has got really a clear thing like a rich snippet for stars or something, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's got a really actionable thing, surely there's like higher priorities. Like, can the bot even read your content? Can GPT even read it? Like, can Claude read it? Have you tried actually getting it to read the content on the page? But people are so focused on schema and various other things that I'm like, let's just all take a step back, guys, and let's actually just build from like, the ground up, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, Daniel Chung, he was in the first year with you as well at Edge of Search, did his whole presentation on schema, spent years deep diving schema. And now he's seeing all of this focus on schema. He's like, where was this energy like 5 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Because look, let's not discount schema entirely. And to be real, SEO overall is like this ginormous checklist of stuff that moves things incrementally in the right direction, and schema's one of those.
Yeah.
But it is incremental. Like, it's not going to be the thing that like changes your life.
Yeah.
It is good to remove ambiguity, and schema is great for that at the back end. But you need structured content, and you need to make sure there's no point in putting all this effort into schema if the bot is just hitting a wall trying to get to the content in the first place.
If the bot can't even reach the schema and the schema's like being client-side rendered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, anyone trying to sell you schema as some gift from God for AI search, move on. Ignore that person immediately. Is that too harsh?
I don't know. I mean, that's what I think. But I've also like always taken a look at it as like Google's goal, right, should be that we don't exist. SEOs don't exist. So like, I know it hurts to say, but like it's the truth of it, right? They should
don't
be able
like
to
us.
rank a website that deserves to be ranked without these weird little like manipulations we do to rank higher. And schema is one of those things that I look at as, okay, the average person has no idea about that, right?
Yeah.
So Google's goal should be to just rank the content that's on
Yeah.
the page.
100%. I mean, I do like to kind of delineate a little bit between like manipulation and what good SEOs are doing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you think about anything you do, really, if you're trying to, you're doing an action to try and secure a specific outcome, that is manipulation. But the word has such a baggage
Optimization.
to it that I'm like, look, let's delineate here. If you're being good at your job,
Yeah.
and you're being a good SEO, you're not trying to manipulate things. You're just trying to remove the question marks. You're trying to create clarity. You
Yeah.
know, you're not lying or misleading people into buying something they don't want or going somewhere they don't want to be. It's, and I think Google should really, maybe be a little less mean to us, to the good SEOs. Work with us instead. It feels like a lot of tug of war
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
they
of the
didn't answer
time.
many of the questions on Friday in Sydney. It was quite crickets in the room with answering questions in Sydney, but that's
It's okay because there is a QR code to a guide.
right.
It's all right. We won't talk on that one too much. I do have a question for you, actually. Just for anyone in here who's maybe not, because we do have a few people who are, they're sort of familiar with technical SEO, but it's maybe not their strongest skill. If you're not super familiar with technical SEO issues, are there tools out there that they can use for auditing that can help them to kind of learn a bit more, and just get them regularly looking at these tech issues and prioritizing them?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't really touch on tools in that because there's a few out there, but I'm obviously always going to talk about Screaming Frog because Screaming Frog, honestly, if you just go and have a play with that, crawl some websites and just dig into the issues that they raise and dig into the errors that come up, it will then start to actually teach you just by doing, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm much more of a learn by doing person. So you can actually go and like find errors on various websites. And I mean, with Claude these days, you could even get Claude to build you a website that has these errors and go have a look at that. I've also, as I showed you guys those URLs on my website, you guys can go and have a look and actually crawl them there, and building out sort of a whole range of them that you can go and hit with Screaming Frog and see how that reacts and try the rendering and not rendering and see the actual difference there. So the biggest advice is to actually just go and have a play and dig in and learn by doing. I mean, that's what I did. There was no specific way to learn it. It's just by being a problem solver and just being curious.
100%. And also, Screaming Frog, for anyone who doesn't know, they do have a free license version for websites. It will crawl
500
websites
URLs,
up
I
to
think.
500 URLs, yes. So if your website has less URLs than that, or you think it has less URLs than that, you'll find out.
It'll just stop crawling. So you can
It will
crawl
stop.
any website. Yeah, but you just won't be able to crawl the whole thing. But
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you as well was with the client side versus server side rendering, just in case there's anyone who's not sure about that, how do you find out whether or not where that rendering is occurring? How do you access it? That sort of stuff.
like, oh yeah, as in like from a code perspective.
Yeah.
The great thing is you can often go talk to a web developer about that. So like as to where it's actually like occurring, like I've shown you how you can test and see that it's happening. The next thing you do is you actually just take that to your web developer and go, how can you help me fix this? How can we load it on the actual server side? From with the joys of sort of AI tools these days, you can actually now get like Claude in the browser to actually dig in and point it towards like the
Yes.
JavaScript that's causing it, which is pretty cool. We'll use a bunch of your tokens. but that is a good way to sort of learn what's actually like triggering it. But the best way is to lean on those developers and
Collaboration.
collaboration.
And you know what,
Always be
Claude?
friends. Yep. Buy your
Yes.
developers beer. I'm not even kidding. Buy them
Oh,
beer.
I was going to say, you know what Claude can't do? Buy your developer a lollipop every time he helps you. So
Yeah.
that when you go and ask him for things, for some reason, he just really wants to help
He
you.
just really wants to help. I don't know why.
Alrighty. Well, I think we are probably at time. And I think everyone has filled out the polls. So thank you for that, everybody. Thank you so much, Sally, for your time and for everyone who joined us. Please go and connect with Sally. Follow her on LinkedIn. I have shared the link with you in the chat. She shares great stuff on there about all things technical SEO and cool insights about search. So go follow her there. And if you enjoyed today's presentation, please go check out Edge of Search. We have our next conference happening 4th of September this year. We will bring you more wonderful, unique content like this, including Sally. She will be back on stage with us this year. I'm so excited about it. Go to edgeofsearch.com. You can see all the info there. I'll see you all at the next webinar next month, where we will be talking with Dan Petrovic on some AI SEO. So sign up for that. All right. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye, everyone.